History turns on moments. In 1940, France's sudden fall against the Nazi blitzkrieg changed everything, leaving Britain isolated and clearing Germany's path east. But what if France had stood firm? And let's find the answer to the question, what if? If France had not fallen, the Western Front would have become an unbroken line, fundamentally altering the war's initial phase. Instead of a swift collapse, the Maginot Line would have held in key sectors, or effective counteroffensives would have stalled German advances, preventing the British Expeditionary Force's evacuation from Dunkirk. The BEF would remain an integral part of a continuous Allied front, making the war a protracted, grinding affair, perhaps resembling WWWI's static warfare or a dynamic stalemate. This would create a severe German strategic dilemma, as Hitler's blitzkrieg strategy would be challenged. Resources and manpower would remain tied down in the West, transforming their initial triumph into a costly quagmire. Crucially, the absence of France's fall would prevent a severe blow to Allied morale and British isolation. Instead, a shared, albeit pressured struggle would strengthen Anglo-French resolve, fostering early integrated command structures and resource sharing. With a persistent, demanding front in the West, Germany's capacity to pivot decisively eastward against the Soviet Union would be severely hampered. Operation Barbarossa, the historical invasion, would face significant delays, perhaps a year or more, or be launched with considerably fewer resources as the Wehrmacht remains bogged down. This crucial delay would grant the Soviet Union invaluable time to mobilize forces, rearm, and fortify its defenses, making them far more formidable. A later launch would also inevitably push the German advance deeper into the brutal Russian winter, repeating the logistical nightmares that historically crippled past invaders. Crucially, Germany would remain trapped in a grinding one-front war in the West for an extended period, preventing early territorial expansion and resource exploitation in Eastern Europe. This would profoundly alter the timeline for the Holocaust and the practical implementation of Nazi racial policies. With France as an enduring continental ally, Britain's strategic position dramatically shifts. The isolation and desperate defense of the Battle of Britain, as we know it, wouldn't occur. German air power would be challenged across a broader shared front. The combined might of the Royal and French navies would project formidable power, particularly in the Mediterranean. Crucially, France's vast colonial empire, from North Africa to Indochina, remains fully allied, offering immense resources, manpower, and vital strategic bases, unlike their historical fragmentation under Vichy. While American lend-lease and eventual involvement are still probable, a stronger unified European front might alter the urgency or nature of direct US military intervention, potentially drawing them into a prolonged stalemate, or conversely, making their entry even more pivotal to break the deadlock. Crucially, the absence of France's fall means no collaborationist Vichy regime ever comes into existence. Instead, a sovereign French government, perhaps exiled to North Africa, or maintaining a foothold on the mainland, would continue the fight. This prevents the profound national division and the painful legacy of collaboration, ensuring France's integrity remains unbroken. Consequently, resistance movements would focus on supporting the active fighting front or undermining the German war effort rather than solely liberating an occupied homeland. The moral complexities of collaboration, a dark chapter in history, would be significantly less pronounced or take entirely different forms. Moreover, the devastating displacement of populations and the specific refugee crises associated with the historical fall and occupation are largely avoided. Jewish communities in France and its vast colonial empire would not face the systematic roundups facilitated by Vichy, profoundly altering the horrific timeline of the Holocaust in Western Europe. The world emerging from such an altered conflict would be utterly transformed. The war's end itself would be unrecognizable. A German defeat could come either earlier, crippled by a protracted Western front, or later, a grinding attrition. The final Allied offensives, the victors, and crucially, the division of post-war territories would bear no resemblance to our history. France, having fought continuously as an independent, sovereign nation, would emerge with profound moral authority and an unassailable claim to major power status, potentially eclipsing Britain's influence. This enhanced standing would dramatically reshape the geopolitical chessboard. Consequently, the genesis of the Cold War would be drastically different. A stronger France, a potentially less dominant Soviet Union, and vastly altered outcomes in Eastern Europe could shift the Iron Curtain, or even prevent its formation entirely. The very nature of superpower rivalry and global alliances would be profoundly reshaped for decades to come. France's 1940 fall profoundly shaped World War II. A resilient France would have radically altered the war and global order. In your opinion, what if France had not fallen to Nazi Germany in 1940? Share your thoughts in the comments.